14th meeting of the Traffic Safety and Parking Commission to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Wong, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer, could we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner
Short
Couch,
one.
Commissioner Couchy,
Oh, here.
and Vice Chair Martos.
Here. All right. We are not going to approve the minutes because we don't have a quorum. So we'll get those minutes next time. And there was one correction that I added to the minutes from September 26th. Ms. Brewer, you acknowledged she would make that change, so we'll see that change next time. All right. Good on the 26th or the minutes from the 10th? You recall?
The ones from,
It was for the special meeting.
Okay, very good. All right, public comment. There is no one in the audience, so I'm not going to read the information here, but I know, Ms. Brewer, you have 5 emails.
Correct.
Okay, could you go ahead and read
Sure.
the emails? These are non-agenda items.
The first email comes from Samantha French. Respectfully, we inquire if you have granted our request to be added to the agenda for this month's meeting. As a reminder, we have requested that you consider adding a stop sign, speed bumps, and/or crosswalks at the intersection of Vancouver and Adeline. There is a terrible blind spot on this corner. Our children cross the street at least once a day, and it's not safe as many cars coming down the hill or from Mercy are speeding down Adeline. For our family in particular, my daughters have all varying degrees of hearing loss, and we wear devices where it may be difficult to hear a speeding car coming around the blind corner. Yet another accident occurred at this intersection this past weekend. The car ran off the road, across the sidewalk, and into a yard at the corner where my children and others in the neighborhood walk and stand to wait for their friends. Before someone gets seriously hurt, it is important that we place some mechanisms to slow the traffic down, as suggested above. We often see cars and delivery trucks driving above the speed limit. Thank you for your attention, Samantha French. Next email. I would like to express my support for the request below from Samantha French to add this topic to the next meeting agenda. I live on Vancouver and saw the accident happen this past weekend. It was terrifying to witness, and I was thankful there were no pedestrians nearby, as it is a high foot traffic corner for adults and children. I've seen far too many cars speeding down Adeline, and given the number of school children who walk to Lincoln, BIS, and Hoover, it's incredibly risky for the city not to consider a stop sign, speed bump, and/or crosswalk at Vancouver and Adeline. Thank you for your consideration, Stephanie Willis. Next email comes from Dennis John. If you're going to install bike lanes all over the city, there should be a requirement to guarantee the same number of parking spots. For those of us that are not as lucky to have washer dryers in our buildings, we have to go to the laundromats. And with these bike lanes now, there is never any parking available at either the laundromat on California Avenue. So you have made laundry services less equitable for those of us that don't have affordable access to any. The next email comes from Greg King. Every day, and especially during morning and evening commute hours, some drivers speed recklessly on Floribunda Avenue, driving up to 45 miles per hour through the 25 mile per hour zone. There is only one very poorly marked crosswalk on Floribunda between El Camino Real and California Drive. Floribunda is a curving street with limited sightlines and with multiple intersections where cross traffic is merely supposed to yield. In my 10 years of residency and daily walks, I have never once witnessed Burlingame PD enforcing the speed limit on the Floribunda thoroughfare. We need the speed limit actively enforced against reckless drivers who are traversing daily through our neighborhood. Last email comes from Doug Bojack. Hello, Commissioners. I want to bring up a grassroots traffic calming project at Bariole Avenue, the street that is at the southern border of Burlingame and San Mateo. I have lived on the street for more than 30 years, and it has consistently been a high-speed street with cars using the wide straightway to accelerate into Hillsborough. This has caused numerous car totalings and made the road unsafe for families in the area. I recently flyered both sides of Barrio Lay to request community input into whether and what traffic calming methods people would like to see on the road. There was unanimous agreement in the response that something must be done. The clear preference was installing speed cushions and additional stop signs. I am informing you now in advance of sending the survey results to Mayor Colson, who represents this district, and to Mayor Nash of San Mateo, also representing the adjacent side of the street. I hope the cities will find the few dollars they need in next year's budgets to install the necessary signs and speed cushions to ensure the safety of this shared street.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brewer. So we're not allowed to comment on any of these emails, but Mr. Wong, I wanted to ask you, you do respond to these people when they send an email, so it doesn't just go into a black hole?
Through the chair, or vice chair, for the first item, Mr. Sai is going to be looking into that particular item.
Okay,
And then the last item with Mr. Bojack and the folks on Barrio Lay, I've already met with them. And we have a meeting with the San Mateo folks. And so we will bring, this has been brought up. They're aware of it, but we will discuss it. And that meeting is tomorrow. So we are actively pursuing a couple of those, just to give you
very
the
good.
heads up.
Okay, appreciate it. All right, we will move on to our discussion item. Nothing to vote on tonight since we don't even have a quorum, but we're all ears, Mr. Wong, and hopefully have some questions for item 6A, Murchison Drive, Truesdale and Davis Bike Improvement Project.
All right. Absolutely. Sure. And this item was never going to be, at this meeting was never going to be a discussion. We, as Chair Martez knows, we had presented a item at the last commission meet, or I'm sorry, last council meeting with the California Drive, the introduction of that parking restriction that we had discussed at a previous meeting. And so similar to the commission, they appreciated having as much outreach as we did and be able to kind of zone in on what it was to make these more clear.
The outreach was fantastic.
So for this project, in order to get folks here, there's 1,000 notices that get out. And so we're going to, while we can't do similar to that, knock on every door and get a survey, we are going to try to make sure everyone gets in here. So we're going to go through that. So this was more of a meeting just to give you guys a refresher and a little advanced look of what's to come at a upcoming meeting within the next meeting or two. So moving along, tonight's goals will present you with the staff recommended concepts for this meeting. And this is based on the feedback from that previous meeting where we talked about it in June, as well as the survey and the other outreach meetings, just kind of a combination of that. Again, we'll obtain your feedback for tonight's meeting, and then we'll go over the outreach that we plan on doing and see if you guys want to add to it. And this will be put forth at a future meeting where you'll see I've got the Candyland chart, but we'll invite all the businesses, the residents along the stretch, but we'll get into that. And then if we can move forward and be able to get past and get some level of support or determine the level of support, we need to move this into final design. As you're aware, as you recall, this is a grant project and that clock's always ticking on that. So for where we are is roughly somewhere here. We're going to look over the revised concepts and then maybe move forward. Depending on how clear they are, we may go to council, but we may just we'll talk to our director and see what the input was, and if it was pretty supportive, we may just automatically move into the final design. But there's that option to go back to council as well if it's something that we want to. So here are the project streets. Murchison, Truesdale, Davis. Murchison from California to Sequoia. Truesdale from California to Castaneda or Martinez, and Davis from Albemarle to Casada. As you can see, we've got BIS and Franklin are over here. We've, I believe it's Mills is over here. So some of the areas that we're impacting, as well as Burlingame Plaza. Oops. All right, so quick look, Murchison. It's a really wide 2-lane roadway with on-street parking on both sides. What we looked at was the first one was to do here, it's not necessarily a road diet, we're just basically striping in the roads. And the first one we looked at was doing parking protected buffered bike lanes. As you can see, the bike lanes are up against the curb with a buffer zone for doors and then the parked vehicles and then the travel lanes. This is similar to what we have on California Drive, except we have a 2-way bikeway there. However, the one with this one is because we were going to be incorporating this where there are driveways. There's going to be some parking loss along Murchison. So we had gotten some feedback on that the last meeting. The other option was to flip it and make it what we have is something similar to what we have in Carolyn and on the California north of Broadway, where we have parking up against the curb, the buffered bike lane, and then the travel lanes. So with this, other than some parking that we may have to remove because of AB 413 parking spaces, but for the most part, we shouldn't have to remove any parking spaces because of this. And so again, Murchison Alternative 2, staff recommended concept on that. So it's basically what matches what Millbrae's already done. Truesdale, we have 2 lanes in each direction with on-street parking. The first look was to obviously same type of thing we did on Murchison, do a road diet, or I mean, in this case, we would truly do a road diet by dropping a lane in each direction, providing a 2-way left turn lane for people to access driveways. And then in this case, we left the parking up against the curb and then did a buffered bike lane in each direction. So as we found out last time, as we talked about, the level of service at peak times goes from level of service C to level of service F. And that's just during the AM peak, that's drop off. So this might occur at the afternoon pickup time as well as the PM peak. So this was something that we heard a lot from the last meeting of folks not wanting, they already stress that they have backups now on the roadway. So to exasperate it, there was much concern about that. The other option was to keep the travel way clear to keep operations high and then slide the bike lane up against the curb. However, in this case, it removed the on-street parking, which given how many facilities, both high density homes, you can imagine that one. So with that, the other alternative, a third alternative that we looked at was to kind of fit everything in there. It would tighten up, we do lane diets, drop the lane widths down to what we could, as well as a minimum bike lane and parking lane. So, but when we presented this, there was concerns of trying to, how comfortable the cyclists would be shoving everything all together. So based on that, and what we're looking at is actually removing Truesdale from this grant application at this time. We can explore the more residential areas and something, but right now, definitely through this section, I don't think we can make a clear get support for any option. So our recommendation is to remove it from this project at this time. Now, Davis Drive. What we'll do here's Davis Drive. And based on the feedback that we got, there was concerns that they wanted to slow down speeds and obviously no parking loss. And so what we've decided to do is phased approach. Obviously get the greenback sharrows, which indicates the bike facility or heightens the awareness of that, as well as go ahead and stripe in, sorry for the poor graphics, but stripe in edge lines just to kind of give a sense of where to narrow up the road. But in this case, at one of the intersections, we would also do a high visibility crosswalk, do a quick build bulb out, and maybe put a pedestrian sign there just to tighten up that part of the intersection for the pedestrians on their way to either BIS or Franklin. Other things that we could phase in, obviously speed cushions. Uh, We'd have to look at that with the community a little bit more, but something else that we may try rather than a series of speed cushions, this particular location here, we could shift to a raised crosswalk, which would be act like a speed cushion but it's also just one location with a purpose. So that's something we can look at after, but this is our initial first step on this. And this is our recommended concept to go with a phased approach. So our public outreach for this, obviously we'll be mailing out notices as we have to all the folks on Murchison, Truesdale, Davis, and the side streets, 500 feet off the side streets. One of the bigger stakeholders is Mills Peninsula, will make sure they're aware of it, but they may be less concerned because of our recommended concept to not do anything there, as well as the city of Millbrae. We will get notices to BIS and Franklin so they can distribute it to their parents so they could be aware of what's happening in the area. And lastly, we'll include it in e-news, and we'll also go and post the meeting notice once we determine the day of the meeting and let folks know what's happening, as well as if we can, while we're out there, we may even hand out and knock on some of the businesses. So to summarize, again, we presented to you the recommended concepts. Again, Murchison Drive, we'll go with the alternative 2, which is just buffered bicycle lanes. Truesdale will remove the street from the project. And on Davis Drive, work with a phased approach with the greenback sharrows, edge lines, in-street pedestrian signs, and then quick build bulb outs, as well as a high visibility crosswalk at Marco Polo and Davis. Hope to hear any feedback you have regarding outreach or the concepts, and then we'll try to get this onto a future meeting. It'll be kind of the traffic safety meeting / community meeting. It'll probably be our third or fourth one, if I recall. I think it's probably our fourth one that we'll have with this. And then hopefully we can determine the level of support and then get the design consultants into designing it so we can get this thing constructed. So with that, happy to take any questions you may have or clarify anything.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wong. Commissioner Couchy, I'll go to my left. I'll start on my left.
All right. Yes, thank you, Mr. Wong.
Sure.
So can we go to the one this one? So so just a couple of thoughts that I had is by removing the bike lane down Truesdale, we now are eliminating that low stress bike facility for that school. What school is that? Is that BIS? What is that school right there?
BIS and Franklin are off, or Franklin is right here and BIS is over here.
So is there a way for us to connect then to Murchison?
Sure. And I think what we will look at is, let's go to this, trying to, a bike boulevard, continue some of that sharrows through here because Magnolia signalized, but it's signalizing you have to make a left turn, potentially Ogden, which is stop controlled, that we can get folks over to Truesdale. Ogden's obviously narrower than Magnolia, but you have at least an always stop at Ogden, Truesdale. So that's something we're considering.
Sequoia Avenue, what is that like? I was looking for the stress level map. I can't find it. So
Okay.
do you know what the stress level is on that?
I do not, not right this moment. We can take a look at it. We
And the
consider that.
The reason I was going down that way is, I was trying to understand if there is a way to do a low stress route. So if you need buffer to be low stress, is there a way to do a low stress route from the school over to Murchison? So that way then the kids can drive down Murchison and get on the bike lane that exists on California Drive.
Sure, and that's something we can look at, but one thing that does come up, most of the students that are attending either BIS or Franklin, they're coming from the south. So obviously going, what we had developed before of, they come up Davis or they can, Clarice, we've now marked up pretty well to get folks onto Casada to walk into school. And then there's, as you may have looked at in the engineer's report, there's some more updates regarding Casada that will improve that. But most of the student body or the enrollment area is coming from the south. So while there are some folks coming through, there's not as many coming from this northern. Plus the Murchison is the center line. Murchison's the city limit.
So with that thought, then you're saying with most of the students living south of Davis, is there a way for us to make a connection then around Davis to California? Because it looks like, right now it ends at
Albemarle.
Marina.
Albemarle, yeah.
I'm just trying to, right now, right, that was really the BIS, that Truesdale route was the way to get to California. So
Mhm.
that out, is trying to figure out if there's another way to still make there a low stress, safe route to get to California, which then would take them into the downtown areas and the parks.
And that may have to come, if they're coming up California, it would be Rosedale, where there's a signalized intersection of El Camino and Rosedale. And then to get into Albemarle and then Davis would be the connection. But
But I'm thinking about like actually trying to build, instead of them figuring it out for themselves, if we're going to take away the Truesdale for now, is there a way to enhance Murchison or Davis to create that safer route?
well, Murchison will have whatever facility, the buffer, what we're recommending is the buffered facility.
Right.
If they want to go all the way up. And then Davis, there's just room. There was never room for any sort of bike lane without obviously removing parking, which we heard about. But then trying to slow down, getting the edge lines of Davis makes that a better bike boulevard. So better than it is now.
So my comments would be basically, is there a way to make there a safe route for from BIS to California Drive if we're taking away Truesdale? Can we do something with leveraging what's being done on Davis or being done on Murchison to create that safe route?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've taken a look. We can, I'll bring it up once again prior to our future meeting. But again, the tough section here was always where the dash line was in front of the hospital because and they haven't relinquished, but they needed the 2 left turns into it. So we couldn't drop an additional lane there. So that was always a sticking point. While we might be able to improve it from California El Camino, but once you got from El Camino to Casada, yeah, I mean, even that part right in front of the hospital was tricky. But then the part from right in front of the hospital to even Sequoia or Casada all the way up, that's when we came across the, go back, the different options of, we would really reduce the level of service of that roadway and back it up.
And that's from Casada to.
Well,
Right.
it's probably, I mean, if you look at this, it's probably Casada at Truesdale because that's where the morning drop off. That's one of the busier intersections. And it even, that one also has a crossing guard. And I know the traffic sergeant and I have talked about, how the crossing guards operate, but when they're letting, metering kids as opposed to holding kids and then having them go as a group, it further backs it up. So that's part of the back.
Right.
But then if we drop a lane there and then people can't get around, that kind of almost has an impact on our drop-off zones because people won't be able to drop off. They're going to be in the queue no matter what. So
So just for clarity, what I'm saying is not putting something on Truesdale, but just getting something maybe on Sequoia or something. so
Sure.
Kids can get I really like Murchison since it's that buffered.
Sure. And we've talked about either Ogden or even Sequoia. I'll have to check with Mr. Yang, but that we would highlight it in some way. We wouldn't be able to put a bike facility on that because they're also narrow, but we'd be able to put something to indicate it is a bike facility, whether it be Greenback Sharrows, and we can look at what the speeds are there if we needed to traffic calm and maybe turn it into a bike boulevard. But that's something we are looking at. There's not enough room. Magnolia is much wider, but Magnolia has its own issues on that because it's heavier traffic. You've got the shopping center with bigger trucks, Molly Stone's over there, and you've got a signal. You still have to turn. You'd have to ride Truesdale for part to get up to the school.
Yeah, Truesdale, I think I think if you take Truesdale away, Magnolia is too far away.
Yeah.
Magnolia is very, so it would be, if you look at where the school is, if something could be done on Sequoia
Yeah.
over.
One of the streets I know, and I'm sorry, I apologize. It's slipping which street it is, but we are considering that to get folks over.
Then my other, but I like, by the way, that Murchison's gonna have that buffered lane. Let me say that. I think that will be good. And it is connecting into California, so that will be good. Then my other question would be, since we have achieved the grants, are we gonna be able to leverage this grant money to do something other type of bike lane if we're not using it on Truesdale?
I'll see how much we have, but the idea is we can maybe do a little bit more on Murchison, but Mr. Yang has been checking with the grant folks. So we're okay with not using it all on Truesdale, I believe. Or no, I'm sorry, not using it at Truesdale and then either spreading it out on the other ones or potentially we might have to give back some, but
What did we get total? Was it like 1.8?
I'll have to, again, check with him on that.
Okay.
So we can get back to you on that.
I'd hate to give it back.
No,
Better if
we,
figure out another way to use it.
Anything else?
No, I guess, one more question. I just wanted to confirm. Back to, I can't find the stress routes. Davis is a low stress street, Davis Drive.
I'd have to, again, I might be able, I think I have it on here. I can try to look it up and get you that, but
I've got it. I can look it up. I can't find it right now. Do you have the bike guide plan?
I might. I've got part of it. I think I need a separate binder for the whole thing.
yeah, let me. Here we go. I have it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right. Done?
Oh, here it's right.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and share screen.
Found it?
Yeah, it was already up. So. And so. It looks like, I'll have to see what the color is. Green. Oh no, we're looking at gray.
Oh, where's Cassia? There's Sequoia.
All right, Ray Park. Christian Martinez. So Davis is at level 2 stress. being right here. Sequoia. And then, God, what's this coming in?
Okay, so we're not taking it to
No,
full one.
I think that's Casada, that other blue line.
yeah, that's what it is.
Because I think, yeah, Casada comes after Sequoia, pretty sure.
So an option we can look at, since Sequoia as well as Ogden are roughly the same, we can look at trying to do, I've just been checking with Mr. Yang. We could try to do both. I mean, obviously, they already are Class 3 facilities, and we could just highlight them as such.
Okay. But then Davis being a level 2, if we have Sharrows, we're not taking it down a level, right? We're not reaching.
No, because there's no physical change that's happening, it's more awareness.
All right.
I think we know, not a big fan of the sheriff. We go on record of saying that.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Wong, I had a couple things. So go back to, on understand process. Go back to that Candyland chart, please,
Sure.
where we're at and where we're going. Okay. So where you outline the red box there,
We're
where
roughly
we're at?
because or you know, you want to call it, we're probably starting here if this is the entire process.
Yeah.
Because we'll bring it back at a future meeting and then showing the community this, probably in more detail, a little bit more detail with our design team. But then, yeah, trying to get determined support for the options, see if folks concur with our recommendations.
But it's going to come back to us again, right? So we're really maybe in that upper TSB.
Well,
community
I think the
outreach.
next meeting will be both a community meeting
Mhm.
and we'll be asking, and there'll be a staff report, we'll be asking for a motion of support.
Okay. Okay. All right.
That-
Okay.
They were the intent.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then go to, so I agree with you. I don't think we should do anything on Truesdale. It's with the hospital and not a good solution there. I would leave that out of the plan. I too like the Murchison alternative too. And then I wanted to ask a question about Davis. So the quick build bulb outs, that's just paint, right?
Paint, and we'll give it much that's happened, like that's happened in the Lion Hogue, where there'll be
Yeah.
the post
Okay. Okay.
addition to,
Okay. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Those are pretty effective. And then the raised crosswalk, is that is that part of the design or is that still under evaluation, whether you're going to go with a raised crosswalk there?
that would be the next phase. We'll see how the
Okay.
crosswalk works, given with the bulb outs, that the bulb outs will actually pinch the road.
Sure.
shortly.
Sure.
And then the high visibility crosswalk again, and then we'll put the pedestrian paddle sign in the middle there to kind of give a
Right.
little bit more. But then yes, the raised crosswalk would be the next phase of it, something more, just
Okay.
the speed cushions would.
Okay. 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 So, timeline on these implementations, what's the goal on when we want to try and get this implemented in like quarters of 2025 maybe?
Well, most of it, the winter, the design team probably need the winter
Okay.
and spring to finalize the design. And then we'd hope to get this out, and I'll check with Mr. Yang. Hopefully he's listening, but most likely summer.
Okay. So this could possibly be implemented by the start of school year, fall 2025, possibly. Okay. And then go to the map where you show the 3 streets. I wanted to follow up with Commissioner Couchy's questioning. So the bike cage now is moved or is going to be moved if it's not moved already, south of Clarice, right? Is it going to be south of Clarice so that bikers are coming from the south and they're going to park their bikes without having to cross over Clarice or any of that congested traffic area in the mornings, in the afternoons? Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's the goal, so folks don't have to cross the driveways.
Yep, yep. Okay, so go back to the map, please.
Okay.
Okay. And can you zoom a little bit on the Davis area? I want to Davis South, if you can, or if you can't, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. So students are going to leave BIS. They're going to go to the bike cage. They're going to get their bikes, and 98% of most of them are going to be going south, right? So they'll probably hit Davis. They'll go down Davis. They'll probably hit Albemarle up to Rosedale. And if they want to get to California, then they'll cross El Camino there and get up to California where they can hit another bike lane, or they can hit a bike lane, right?
Correct.
So the infrastructure on Albemarle and Rosedale for bikers, is there anything there? Are there sharrows or anything on there?
And I'd have to look. Let's just say there isn't, but as part of this,
Okay.
we could highlight
Yeah.
sharrows on
I
there.
mean, if we're not doing anything on Truesdale, I mean, let's give them some sort of protection on Albemarle and Rosedale to get to California, right? Let's just continue that. If there's some extra funding there that we can do that. I don't advocate that they go on to Truesdale at all. They just stay away from Truesdale, especially to get going past the hospital to get to California. That'd be a bad route to go. And I don't know how many are going to go up to Murchison from BIS. But I would like to see some sort of connection if we're building the infrastructure on Davis to continue that infrastructure, whatever we can, on those two other streets, Albemarle, Rosedale, to get to California. Something to consider.
Actually, we do have sharrows on
Okay.
Albemarle now.
Okay, how about Rosedale?
Rosedale, there is not.
Okay,
So we can look at
so something to consider there.
And we can also try to highlight those as, again, greenback sharrows.
Yeah, something, something better than nothing. Okay,
And ideally, it would be, because it's always stop controlled at, which one's that? One street up from Albemarle. Maybe that's a better way.
I can't see the map.
No, I might have. Balboa. Balboa and Rosedale is always stop that we put in for, that was part of Lincoln School. So
You share your screen.
sure. Yeah. So at Balboa and Rosedale, right here, there's an always stop.
Okay,
But it's also, Albemarle is flatter than Balboa, but Balboa, you'd be able to go here, always stop, get into it, and then go here. Here, you'd have to negotiate a left turn onto Rosedale from a stop. They don't have a stop on Rosedale here. So
okay. But there is a Sharrow on Albemarle.
there are sharrows on Albemarle.
Okay. Okay. All right. So those are my comments. And I look forward to seeing this again with our full commission and the consultants' designs, and really want to see the public input, feedback on this as well. Mr. Couchy, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Did you say Mr.?
I said Commissioner Couchy. It went Commissioner Couchy?
The only thing, I like the route you were going. The only thing I would like to see is, can you go back to that stress route? What is the stress level on those streets? Because the only thing I think it's important
Hmm.
to know, we're stress level 2, and we're putting sharrows, we're
Mhm.
not helping the
Yeah.
workers at all.
There's nothing even listed there. You can't tell what's what.
Yeah, it's blue. It's right here. So there's nothing for
That's
Albemarle
gray.
or Balboa,
Yeah.
and then Rosedale is blue.
So with the added funding, could we do something there, put a bike lane in there? So we're giving them,
We could take a look, but again, I know on Albemarle that I don't think it's wide enough for a bike facility. So, I mean, these are all, I mean, we come with the same problem. All these streets are like 34 feet wide. And once you put in your parking and your travel lanes, there's nothing left.
the
Oh.
good news is though, that's not a high traffic street.
That's part of it. It's lower volume,
Yeah.
both of those streets. And so,
So that's why I think there'd be more give to do a bike lane on those streets because they don't have the,
when you mean a bike lane or a bike facility? Again, I know, I think you're referring to actual lane because you're not supporting sharrows as being something more.
just because I've read so many articles about how unsafe they are. So it's
But then we
people sending kids,
sure.
especially on a stress level 2 street. So that's why I was hoping that we could consider something else, like doing maybe a bike lane there. We wouldn't have to worry so much about the traffic that we have on.
It's also the residents there, right? If there's not enough room, you have to get the space somewhere for a bike facility. And or in that case, you'd have to remove on-street parking. That would be the same discussion we had with the folks on Davis of why not increasing that. So folks would not have parking in front of their homes is the trade-off to fit something like that in.
Right.
Okay.
So in the analysis with the consultant, if we could come up with some alternatives on how to get people to California,
Okay.
that would be helpful.
Okay. We'll
Yeah.
look in that.
Yeah. We don't have to solve it tonight, but just see if we can make a connection to California for bikers. Okay, good. All right. Yeah, do we have,
I received a public comment for this item.
all right, please. Thanks for raising your hand.
So this one comes from Benito Velasco. I only caught the last part of the presentation. Unfortunately, there was no graphics until now. I'm opposed to the proposed edge lines on Davis. As a regular user on Davis, I can tell you riding up that hill that drivers are in a hurry and most will think that that line is a bike lane. And where bicyclists, I can't even say that, bicyclists belong. Excuse me. So they will honk and intimidate the bike riders, including BIS middle schoolers, to move over and get out of the way. This is not a good option and will have negative effects on driver and bike interaction. Think about it. When you're driving, you see a line and you're not a TSPC commissioner or an engineer, that you will think that is a bike lane. Please reconsider. I'm not clear on why Truesdale is being dropped from the project. Has this been communicated to the bicycle and pedestrian community or to the grant agency? There is a way to accomplish bike lanes here without significant traffic impacts. Is the city or commission willing to meet on site to discuss? Thank you for hearing this matter and continuing the discussion.
I'm sorry, can you tell me who sent that email?
Benito Velasco.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, that's it?
That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 7A. Any comments for any of the 7A items? No, nothing?
No comment.
Emails? Okay, no public comment. Community group updates, nothing from any of the community groups? Nope. Okay. Engineers report, Mr. Wong.
Sure thing. Thank you. If I Chair Martos, again, BIS circulation pedestrian improvements update. We recently met with the Burlingame School District, and the big news we got out of that meeting were two things. One was that they would be upgrading one of their facilities on site. And I'm trying to get this picture to clarify actually what Commissioner Martos had talked about. I believe this is the existing bike cage, and they are going to be upgrading this facility. And so they need to not only relocate this, they need to expand it. So the idea is to pull it from here and put it all the way over here. As you can see, again, these were the driveways folks had to cross to get to this cage. So the students will not have to do that. They can come off here, drop off their bikes, and then walk along the school site here and enter the school without ever having to cross those driveways. So that is a huge benefit, and something they are starting to work on their design. And they've also mentioned that they might be able to advance this work that they know it, but we don't have any timelines or a schedule on that yet. That's in their ball court. The other item was because so many kids are actually taking Samtrans to the site, they're having to add a third bus. There's already 2 buses, and that's what started early this year. They need to add another bus. So right now the buses queue here, and then they drop off the kids go in, and then and then the bus leaves down Clarice. What Samtrans and the district have tried to mention is to relocate. I think this was where it was in previous years, but to put the bus loading zone here along this stretch. So what that means is they would swap. Right now, the drop off that we have, the Commissioners Roulet and Commissioner Ng helped set up was along here, a couple spaces here. So this would get relocated to here, and then the rest of this would be for the buses. So kids would walk along here, and then again, not have to cross here, but then won't walk into the school along the sidewalk. So those are the 2 big things that we heard from the meeting, and we're trying to work with Samtrans. Right now, they're trying to determine how much space do they need for their buses. And then we plan on doing similar to what's out there now, go ahead and post it rather than paint it first. Get an idea of see how successful it is. Put up signs saying this is now Samtrans zone, this is now the bus zone, and obviously let BIS know that swap they should already know, but get that in the newsletter so we don't have people jockeying for the same parking spot here. This came up at the last meeting, the Peninsula Dwight Road update. Staff has been working with the city of San Mateo, and if you've been out there, we've managed to put high visibility crosswalks at that intersection, as well as the city of San Mateo has introduced lead pedestrian intervals, so the pedestrians get a few seconds to be able to get into the crosswalk before the cars get a green. We are working with them for some other signal timing improvements that they have. And again, we now have, as I indicated earlier, there's a meeting that we have with them, and we'll have one tomorrow to discuss either progress on that. And then obviously a couple of these other things have popped up where traffic calming issues on our borders. So we'll be working with them, using that opportunity to talk to them more about that. And the last update I have for you is City Threads. This is a nonprofit that we go through. Commissioner Couch will be able to explain this, and she actually has done the grant, but it's a nonprofit that'll assist the city in trying to develop ways of accelerating the implementation of our projects. They'll kind of look over our process and then go through and see where we might be able to improve it. The grant application, I need to get Commissioner Caccia just a couple things, but it will be submitted tomorrow. She's been the lead on it. And if we're successful, we will ask the chair at the time to go ahead and set up a committee just to be part of that, just like the Vision Zero committee. So for any additional information, there's a link on here. But yeah, we'll see where we go on that. We thank Commissioner Cauchi for her work on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's been big. The director was pretty supportive of it. So we'll see. And we'll get notified in December 3rd, so not too long, a couple weeks. That's
Okay, that's it. All right, any questions?
I only have one, and that is back to Peninsula and Dwight.
sure.
You know, we know there was a horrific accident there, and I've seen that the work that's been done since the accident, and they've done a nice job of improving the visibility there with the light. But if I recall, part of the problem was the visibility due to the sun and there being that playing a part. Is there, it's not intuitive to me. Is there anything that can be done when that's part of the problem at a crosswalk?
I defer to the traffic sergeant, but in that case, it's kind of like you drive the conditions, you drive as safely as you can given the conditions. I mean, it's like when you travel to Lake Tahoe and those roads are covered with snow, you can't see lane lines. If snow's falling, do you go 55 miles an hour or faster, or 65 what the posted speed limit is? No, people have to exercise caution. I mean, we could defer to Sergeant Roberts.
Also, I mean, it's simple as effectively using your sun visor and sunglasses or things like that. Like you have to use the tools that are available to you to drive the conditions as
So we're really, it's really, the onus is on the driver. There's nothing that we can do at the intersection itself. Again, it's not intuitive to me, but I thought I should at least ask the question.
yeah, the driver has to be aware of their surroundings and drive the conditions as we've pointed out. Pedestrians being aware of their surroundings is an effective tool in protecting their safety as well. But in this situation, it appears that with the combination of factors, it was a very unfortunate outcome.
Okay, couple things that I wanted to mention. Mr. Wong, on the BIS, the 3-bus parking area, that's not going to be 3 buses in tandem, right? I mean, they'll arrive at different times. Do you have any idea? They're not going to mark off for 3 buses, are they?
And my understanding is that is the case, because right now,
Okay.
space for 2 buses
Oh, okay.
and then that
Mm.
section. So
All right.
it's be a little longer. And the tricky part is if we red curb all that,
Yeah.
there's no way to, we'll explore, because then folks, the neighborhood, sporting events that go on at BIS,
Yeah.
that won't be available.
Yeah, that's what I was a little concerned about. Okay. Maybe they can, well, that's out of our control, really. They can stagger the times of the buses or something like that. But okay, just curious. And then I'll say on the Peninsula, Dwight, I noticed that the overhead lighting was improved as well.
Yeah.
I was there shortly after the person was hit, and the lighting was pretty poor, and it's considerably brighter now. So that was another improvement you didn't list here, but I wanted to just acknowledge that. And then I did speak with Commissioner Couchy as well as Vice Mayor Stevenson about city threads. In fact, I spoke with Director Martuza about it as well. So a lot of excitement about it. So thank you very much, Commissioner Couchy. And that application is due soon, right?
Yeah.
Like this week?
Due next week, but
Okay.
I'll be submitting it.
Okay. All right. Very good. Yeah, that should be good. All right. Those are all the questions I had. So we will move on and do our police department reports. Sergeant Roberts.
Thank you. Good evening. So I'm reporting on the month of October, with which there are 15 collisions to report. And as always, collisions that occurred on private property, hit and run, cause determined, or collisions caused by DUI or filtered out. So this month, 15 collisions, 8 collisions were with another motor vehicle. We had 1 collision with a parked motor vehicle, 3 involved fixed or other object, 3 involved bicycle. Yes. Collision factors primarily consisted of right-of-way violations, followed by unsafe speed and unsafe turning violations. And then I'll go ahead and highlight a good number of these here. So that actually might be a fourth bicycle related. So I'll start with that one. That's the second from the top, case number ending in 2638, and it's on Truesdale Drive in the area of Toledo. So I think this came up as fixed object because it was a solo bicycle collision, so it didn't actually involve another vehicle. And the circumstances of that collision were that it was an electric bicycle eastbound downhill on Truesdale, and the bicyclist was traveling at a fairly high rate of speed and attempted to brake, but lost control of the bicycle and resulted in a solo collision with the pavement.
Helmet?
I'm sorry?
Were they wearing a helmet?
I believe so.
Is that,
So,
I'm sorry.
yeah, the injuries was abrasions, and then there was a broken ankle.
Okay. Are they required to wear helmets on the e-bike?
Adults are not,
Adults are not. Okay.
from my recollection.
Under 18 they are.
Under 18, yes.
Okay.
This was an adult.
Okay.
Then moving down the list, case number ending in 2678, which occurred in the area of Sherman and Cortez. And then this actually also was this was a juvenile on an e-bike. So it hit a parked motor vehicle, which is why it shows parked motor vehicle. This was an instance of a juvenile traveling, northbound on Cortez. And this occurred at about 8:14 in the morning. And then as the juvenile passed Sherman Avenue, they were not paying attention and veered too far to the right and collided with the rear of a parked van. And this resulted in bruises. And then two down from that, case number ending in 2728. And this is in the area of Burlingame Avenue and Lorton, vehicle bicycle. This one was where a vehicle was traveling eastbound on the 1200 block of Burlingame Avenue. This is a juvenile bicyclist. They were behind a vehicle which was slowing down. The bicyclist attempted to pass and overtake the vehicle on the left, but misjudged the distance and hit the left rear side of the vehicle with the handlebars. This was not an e-bike, and as a result was a complaint of pain only. And moving down to case ending in 2775, this is El Camino Real at Bellevue. This is a vehicle westbound that's stopped at the stop sign, westbound on Bellevue, stopped at the stop sign for El Camino, and attempted to continue westbound across El Camino and collided with the vehicle that was already traveling northbound on El Camino. And this resulted in complaint of pain. And
One
Case.
question. So they're making a left-hand turn, is that?
they were, I believe the report said they were trying to make a straight across to continue westbound on Bellevue.
Okay.
Case 2806, Lorton and Donnelly. This is an e-bike, was traveling eastbound on Donnelly, approaching Lorton. This was a juvenile. The juvenile did not stop for the stop sign and pulled out into the intersection with Lorton while there was a vehicle passing. The bicyclist actually just hit the side of the vehicle that was traveling southbound on Lorton, and this resulted in a cut to the lip. And so there's actually more bicycles than I anticipated here. There's a 2829 case. This is East Lane and Burlingame Avenue. And this is a bicyclist, non-e-bike, traveling northbound on East Lane and stopped at the stop sign for Burlingame Avenue. So this is that area where East Lane and Burlingame Avenue converge just behind the train depot. There was a vehicle traveling southbound on, I believe it's still East Lane at that moment, and making a left turn onto Burlingame Avenue in front of the bicyclist, but the bicyclist did not yield to the vehicle, which had right of way, and entered the intersection. and collided with the vehicle, and this resulted in abrasions and a complaint. And are there any other on the list that you wish to inquire about? I'm happy to answer questions.
Any in particular?
I always have to go first.
Okay, no, no, so I'm curious, Sergeant. People riding e-bikes, when they have accidents like this, do they get cited? If they're at fault? I mean, like they ran into something or they didn't yield to something? I mean, they're,
It's not a practice to issue citations
Huh.
directly for the cause of the collision, no.
Hmm.
Bicyclist or vehicle.
or vehicle, okay, okay. Yeah, I'm just bothered that we have 3 e-bike accidents this month. You know, I hope it's not a trend that we're going to be seeing more of those.
Right.
Right. What's your feeling? Is it looking like it's trending up? It's,
I can't, this is 1 month sample.
yeah, sure.
We always have usually 1 or 2 bicycle or pedestrian related collisions month.
Yeah,
This month in particular, we happen to have what appears to be 5
right.
that are involving bicycles, not all e-bike. Several of, seems like a vast majority of them involve some sort of user error on the part of the bicyclist. whether
Yeah.
they're running a stop sign or traveling too fast for the condition.
Yeah.
Or not yielding when they should.
Yeah,
That does concern me, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, we don't want it to trend, but, okay.
in looking at the whole list of collisions, I think it is important to me that most, if not all, the collisions this month that resulted in any injury whatsoever were minor injury. So
Mhm.
one major injury would be the broken bone of the solo bicycle in Truesdale. So that would indicate to me that all these are occurring at lower speeds, which result in less injury, which is very fortunate. Obviously, we'd like to have 0, but if they're going to happen, I don't want people to get severely injured.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, I went first. Now over to you.
So, I would say something that I would like to throw up for consideration is that Lorton Donnelly intersection. So you have the cars coming that circle onto Lorton, and there's a red, the curb is red, but then there's 2 parked cars that are in front of El Fornillo, and they totally block the view of the cars coming off that circle. So I'd just like to throw that up as something to be looked at, because it is a difficult intersection to see traffic coming. And I know that the incident we had there was with a bike, but it's more so for cars. I think the bike can get up to the intersection a little more and see more. Car can't. So I'm surprised we haven't had more.
In this situation, the bicyclist ran the stop sign. So that was the factor. I think they were traveling too fast and couldn't slow down to stop.
But I still think that that's
Yeah.
it's a blind intersection.
Through the chair, Vice Chair.
Go ahead.
Again, going back to AB 413, that one of those spaces there was because it's an approach to, again, as Mr. Sy pointed out, it's an approach to a marked or unmarked crosswalk. So that area right there, right in front of El Fornillo, that first space closest to that corner on the northwest corner, will no longer be a space. So that's probably a section that will be redded at, or curb painted red and no parking. And we will emphasize to them, I mean, the whole reason is to improve sightline. So that's one of the locations. So that should improve that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, the other thing that I noticed too, the accident that happened at, by the park, that was, what's the intersection there? East Lane and Burlingame Avenue.
Yes,
Was that, what time of day was that?
that was at 8:09 a.m. and the bicyclist was an adult.
Okay, so that was in the morning. Because the other thing I noticed today on coming here is that light at that intersection is out. I don't know who does the lights?
At East, there's no light at East Lane and,
The overhead light,
like a night, the street light.
the street light thing.
Oh, okay.
East Lane.
And right there, as you know, is like 5 intersections and everyone coming from the park. So I know it was another car when I was coming through that ran the stop sign and there were 2 people in the crosswalk, just without the lights there, it is. So I don't know who's in charge of the street lights, but
That would be Public Works. I'll confirm that. So that was the East Lane, Burlingame Avenue.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
moving on. Thank you, Sergeant.
Hmm?
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Chair, Commissioner Communications, any communications? We had a couple emails from BHS students. Mr. Wong's handling that. Appreciate that, Mr. Wong. We'll see if they are satisfied with your responses. Or if they want, got
They
to,
may be looking out for you for one.
yeah, I saw that. All right. And then I attended the meeting on the 4th of November, the council meeting on the 4th of November, where they discussed California Drive parking restrictions. Mr. Wong presented that night. Council, you did a great job because council had no questions of if either one of us after the presentation. They complimented our commission for the thoroughness of our review. In fact, people in the audience that commented on the thoroughness of the review as well. So that was a nice accolade. That was nice to hear from the public as well, that they appreciated the process that we follow. And then I already mentioned that we spoke about city threads, so I think that was all on communication. And hopefully we have enough candidates for our positions that are opening up on this commission, and we'll see what happens before our next meeting if the council has enough applicants, and maybe we'll have some new commissioners. That'll be a good thing. Because I don't think our Commissioner Ng and Commissioner Rebellos are going to reapply. So, but we'll see. Maybe they will. That's all I had. Did you have anything?
I do not.
You do not. Okay, cool. We'll move on to the committee reports. Any comments? Nope, nothing. All right. BIS school safety, I think we got an update from Mr. Wong and Commissioner Israelite, Commissioner Ng are not here. So nothing there. Hillside Drive, again, Commissioner Israelite and Ng, nothing there. KPIs, Commissioner Couchy. Anything to add?
No, the next, I did meet with, city manager,
Goldman? Lisa Goldman?
Yeah. And the next step would be to be meeting with Mr. Wong. And again, we're tracking to, be done with this the first of the year. Probably what I would also say is it would be nice maybe in the first of the year to get another commissioner on the subcommittee. We can discuss that obviously when it's more appropriate, but it's still tracking.
Yep. Okay. And then Vision Zero, no updates from that. I think we're going to be meeting first quarter of 25. You know anything more, Mr. Wong?
I do not. I have,
Okay.
yeah, Mr. Sai.
Okay. So I know they were negotiating with a consultant, and the terms, but I think we're going to kick that off first quarter of 2025. So, and we will, as part of our 2025 commission efforts, we'll look at all these committees and decide what we're going to keep going forward. So some of these may be done. All right. And I think we'll go to future agenda items. What's on the list for December, Mr. Wong?
So we will, depending on our outreach efforts, we may return with this. We may return with, remember, the Occidental
Mhm.
traffic calming.
Mhm.
We have come back and dwindled it down, took feedback from the previous meeting. We talked about trying to get some, increase the number of parking spaces and do some changes so that that's an option. There was
Nominations, elections,
nomination
chair,
elect,
vice chair.
possibly also South Rollins, some improvements that we're doing out there. And then at some point, El Camino Real renewal. We'll get Caltrans in here and give you guys an update. We've been meeting with them. But yeah, that's just for starters. There's
Lots of possibilities.
lots of possibilities to
Okay.
talk about.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So I think we're done.
Do I have
Yep.
to move for the meeting to close, or
You want to make a motion that we adjourn?
I make a motion?
Okay. All right. Meeting adjourned. Cool.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep. Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, maybe.